A 20-year-old from Indiana moves to New Jersey for a fresh start. He plays the bass guitar. He's got a little girl back home, falls asleep at a party, and 6 months later, a forest warden finds his remains in the Pine Barrens. The thing is, there were people around who knew exactly where he was the whole time. Cody MacPherson had a bass guitar, a voice that could fill a church choir, and a daughter in Indiana named Aliana who was waiting for him to get his footing. That was the plan in 2017. He was 20 years old, a Christian who took his faith seriously, someone who did theater and sang because he loved it, not because he thought it made him look cool. He'd grown up in Portage, Indiana, and he made the decision to move back to New Jersey where he was born to try to get his life into some kind of shape. He ended up in Browns Mills, a community sitting right at the edge of the New Jersey Pine Barrens. And if you've ever been to the Pine Barrens, which I have, I lived there for a few years as a kid, it's 1.1 million acres of flat, sandy, dense forest where your GPS quietly gives up on you about 20 minutes in, and you're suddenly very alone with your thoughts. Cell service is more of a suggestion than a service. The locals have their own long-standing understanding of what happens inside those tree lines and what stays there. And generations of people have made use of that understanding in various ways. When I was a kid, I remember hearing about the legend of the Jersey Devil. It scared the crap out of me. The Barrens have always had their way of holding on to things. Cody didn't have a map for any of that. He was a newcomer, and he was just trying to figure it all out. Alan McGinnis had no such uncertainty about where he stood. He was 26 years old, had lived his entire life in the Pemberton Township orbit, and he knew the Pine Barrens the way most of us know how to get to the grocery store. He had an ongoing relationship with a woman named Caitlin Huertas, with whom he shared 2 children. They were in one of those situations where they weren't together and they weren't exactly not together either. You know what that looks like. No one's giving it a name, no one's having the hard conversation, and the whole arrangement just keeps spinning forward because actually ending it would require more honesty than either person is prepared for. Into that situation, Cody MacPherson arrived. Cody and Caitlin had spent the night of September 22nd into the 23rd together at a local motel. McGinnis found out. He also believed, with some basis, that Caitlin might be pregnant with Cody's child. Then, on September 23rd, Caitlin ended things finally with McGinnis. 24 hours later, both men were in the same house. On the night of September 24th, 2017, a group gathered at 234 Party Boulevard in Pemberton Township. There was drinking, there was a crowd, and at some point during the evening, Caitlin passed out on a couch after a lot of it. Cody MacPherson, with no particular reason to feel unsafe, fell asleep on another couch in the same room. McGinnis walked in and announced to the other people in that house, out loud, with his whole chest, no hesitation, that he was going to stab Cody MacPherson. He said it to a room full of witnesses with a confidence that only exists when you genuinely believe nobody present is going to stop you or reach for a phone. Then he walked over to the couch and did exactly what he said he was going to do. He stabbed Cody in the throat and neck while he was sleeping. Despite those wounds, Cody got up and ran. He made it outside to the front lawn before McGinnis caught up to him and stabbed him again in the chest. Cody, still alive at this point, badly wounded and bleeding, but alive. McGinnis forced him into the trunk of a car and then drove away. Around 3 a.m., he pulled up to a relative's house in Jackson Township, about a mile from where this was going to end. He knocked on his cousin's window. His cousin came to that window at 3 a.m. because you hear a knock, you answer it. You don't know. Could be anything. This in particular was not anything good. McGinnis told him that he needed a shovel and explained why. His cousin said no and closed the window. That window closing is a detail I keep coming back to. Cody MacPherson was in the trunk of a car in Jackson Township, New Jersey, still breathing, while the man who put him there was knocking on a family member's window asking for digging equipment. That cousin told him no. and closed the window. McGinnis then drove alone to the Colliers Mills Wildlife Management Area, a remote stretch of state land off South Stump Tavern Road, deep in the Pine Barrens. He pulled Cody from the trunk. Cody was still alive at this point. McGinnis stripped him of his clothes and his belongings, stabbed him once more in the chest, and left him there. The medical examiner would later confirm that final chest wound was the one that killed him. McGinnis covered the body with logs and debris and walked back to the car. Back at the house on Pardee Boulevard, Caitlin's mother, Kathleen Huertas, and at least one other person had already began cleaning. By the time Caitlin woke up the next morning, the blood was gone from the living room and the front lawn, and she was told Cody had simply left on his own. Cody's brother filed a missing persons report that very same day. For 176 days, the MacPherson family lived in the specific kind of uncertainty that belongs to families of missing people. His parents, April and Donald, organized searches, ran social media campaigns, raised money, and kept their son's name in front of everyone who would pay attention. Early on, there was some reasonable speculation that maybe Cody had returned to Indiana on his own. Young men make sudden decisions. But as months passed, his family understood what the silence really meant. This was not something Cody would do. Alan McGinnis was present in that community the entire time. At some point during those 6 months, he reportedly told Caitlin exactly what he had done. Others in the community had pieces of it as well. Nobody contacted the police. On March 19, 2018, Richard Byrne was doing his job. He was a district warden with the New Jersey Forest Fire Service, out at Colliers Mills Wildlife Management Area, preparing a section for a controlled burn. Controlled burns are how New Jersey manages Pine Barrens undergrowth before dry fuel accumulates into a wildfire waiting to happen. It's scheduled, it's necessary, completely unglamorous work. And on essentially any other day in its history, nothing unusual happens during it. Warden Byrne was moving between South Stump Tavern Road and the forest interior when he noticed something under a pile of logs that didn't belong there. He stopped what he was doing, contacted his supervisor, and law enforcement was called in. If that burn had proceeded on schedule, what remained of Cody MacPherson would have almost certainly been destroyed entirely. Cody's remains had been exposed to the elements for 6 months and were largely skeletal. Forensics matched the dental records to Cody MacPherson. They analyzed the skeletal remains and provided biological profiling consistent with the victim. The New Jersey State Police Lab completed DNA analysis on April 17, 2018, confirming his identity. The autopsy documented a stab wound to the left abdomen despite the extent of decomposition, and the manner of death was ruled a homicide. McGinnis was arrested on April 21, 2018. In December of 2018, he appeared before Superior Court. He pled guilty to first-degree murder. On February 1, 2019, he was sentenced to 30 years without the possibility of parole under New Jersey's No Early Release Act. At sentencing, prosecutors returned to the shovel, to the fact that Cody MacPherson was still breathing in that trunk when McGinnis knocked on his cousin's window. McGinnis had told Caitlin's relatives that he killed Cody because Cody was no good for her, that he was making her an unfit mother, that this was something he did for the family. He had talked himself into a moral framework where the killing made sense, and then he said it out loud to people, which tells you exactly how thoroughly he believed it. The MacPherson family traveled from Indiana to sit in that courtroom. They watched a man receive a sentence for taking their son's future and then justifying it to himself as a service. Cody's daughter is growing up now. She has the stories her family keeps alive, his bass guitar, his voice, his theater, the faith that he carried with him, his gentleness as a person. Those are the things that made it through, and that's what she gets to carry forward. Alan McGinnis will not be eligible for release until his mid-50s. By that point, Cody MacPherson will have been gone for longer than he ever got to be alive. The Pine Barrens gave up what they were holding on to in the end, but only because the forest warden was about to light a scheduled burn on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday in March. The Barrens keep their secrets right up until they don't. And at least, after 176 days and a routine land management procedure and one warden who noticed something under a pile of logs, the world got to know exactly what happened to Cody MacPherson. Thanks for listening to 10 Minute Murder, bingeable true crime stories. My name is Joe. Hello. Glad you're here. And here's an email. Subject, a weird coincidence. Hey, Joe. I was listening to one of your episodes while walking around in a cemetery close to my house because I thought that would be a nice, quiet place to get in some steps. Then I realized halfway through that maybe true crime plus a cemetery was a little too on the nose, even for me. Still finished the episode, though. Mark in Brooklyn. Mark, that's crazy work. I could do one or the other. I could walk through a cemetery during the daytime, by the way, or I can listen to violent or scary things. I can't do both at the same time. And that's because I like to sleep without nightmares. Now, you do you, but I'm gonna not do that, if you don't mind. But I do appreciate you listening and powering through and finishing that episode, though. Appreciate it, Mark. Hey, if you're brand new to this podcast, make sure you hit subscribe right now. You can also go to 10minutemurder.com, and in the show notes of the episode that you're listening to right now, you're going to find links. That'll be where you can follow the podcast on social media, a link to the website. I think my email address is in there, and also links to a new podcast that I've started. It's been out for a couple months now, but it's called True Crime Blueprint. And if you have not checked it out, please do that. It's similar to this one in that it's me and it's done by me and researched by me, but it's longer. It's not 10 minutes. It's much, much longer. And it's not all murders, by the way. It's just a true crime podcast. It's called, again, True Crime Blueprint. And the links are in the show notes. Hey, that's going to do it. That's your episode for today. Again, thank you so much for listening to 10 Minute Murder. See you next time.